Hey everybody, welcome back to the Boston-Raleigh channel. It's time to watch more China video. We're almost done. Next week is the last one, and it's gonna be sad. It's gonna be reminiscing and all the other stuff. But first we got Mao passed away. The Chiang Kai-shek passed away. Now we're stuck with Deng Xiaoping. And that's what we're at, 1977, I believe. I think is where it left off, around the late 70s. That's where it left off. We had all the Cultural Revolution, perpetual, like, endless revolution forever, infinite revolution forever, whatever I'd said back then. That's what they do. That's what they do in China. And so they don't like the old. They're like, yo, that old revolution, yuck. We all starved. That was terrible. So now let's do some more. Let's go. Yeah. Setting things right. Deng Xiaoping's guiding philosophy, 1977. I mean, it means a lot of things to a lot of people. Many such cases. Reform and opening up in 1978. Let's go.
1978. And China has a new leader. The 74-year-old Deng Xiaoping.
Yeah.
Deng's record as a reformer, as well as his frank and avuncular manner, is a stark contrast to the memory of Mao Zedong.
What?
Deng is convinced that only the Chinese Communist Party can lead China to prosperity.
You know, I actually think the Chinese Communist Party hasn't been leading China to prosperity. Hot take. This is a bad take. If you really wanted prosperity, what you would do is you would bring in the capitalism, like actual capitalism, not like they're going to try to do, kind of like the pseudo-capitalism, Chinese characteristics, whatever they call it, whatever, mercantilism, all that stuff. What you do is you bring in capitalism, you change the culture, because the culture in China was not good. We had the weird atheism, communism stuff in China. That's no bueno.
But he also believes major reforms are necessary to do it. His views are echoed by prominent supporters, Hu Yaobang and Zhao Ziyang.
I won't remember these guys' names ever for the life of me in like 10 minutes. But Deng Xiaoping, his two dudes.
Zhang describes as his left and right hands.
The left and the right! Minister of the left and the minister of the right.
Together they promote the four modernizations in agriculture, industry, national defense, and science and technology.
Why is it that they like fours? It's like the death culture. Hint, hint for all the Japanese friends out there. It's like the death culture, man. What is this with all the fours? See, back when the capitalist, crazy radical people with Chiang Kai-shek, back when they were doing stuff, it was the threes. They were obsessed with threes. Now they got fours. The four ministers, whatever people that Mao had. You got these four principles, the four whatevers. There's a lot of fours. They like fours.
But there is also a growing number who question China's repressive system.
Yep.
Encouraged by Deng's talk of ideological liberation, activists stick up political posters along Beijing's Xidan Street. It becomes known as the Democracy Wall. Many of the posters criticize Mao and the Gang of Four.
The Gang of Four.
Deng Xiaoping tolerates this criticism of his predecessors, even as so-called big character posters spread across Beijing and other major cities.
I mean, this is China. I feel like they wouldn't let this happen very long.
People have grievances, and they should be allowed to express them, Deng tells an American journalist. Most posters are anonymous. But in December 1978, Wei Jingsheng, an electrician and former Red Guard, posts an essay entitled "The Fifth Modernization." Signing it with his real name and address, he argues that democracy is essential for the welfare of the Chinese people.
Yeah, wait a minute. This guy, hold on. So this guy, he signed his name and address. I feel like maybe this is just me, but I have a hard time believing that. Maybe, you know, maybe not, maybe he would actually do that. But there's a part of me that believes maybe there's somebody who is like, I have this guy I know who I don't like very much, but he kind of agrees with me. So let me put up this whole thing about the fifth modernization, and then sign his name to it. And then when they come for him, then he'll get ransacked. That's what it'll be.
Democracy, freedom and happiness for all are our sole objectives in carrying out modernization, he writes. Now, the limits to the new spirit of openness are revealed.
Yeah, there's always limit. It's China, guys. It's China. We can't have free expression in China.
Wei Jingsheng and 30 other activists are arrested.
Oh, yeah.
And given long jail sentences.
Of course. This is China. To uphold socialism, we must eliminate poverty. Poverty is not socialism. Deng Xiaoping, 1984. See, this is something straight out of 1984, you know what I'm saying? But, also, it does seem like, you know, in order to uphold the institutions of education, we must eliminate written words. You know, because otherwise, the written words aren't education. That I feel like I do believe that somehow, in order to uphold football, we have to get rid of the ball. Football isn't about the ball. The football isn't football, you know? You know what I'm saying? I don't see how, like, it seems like poverty is necessary for socialism. Right? Like, socialism causes poverty. Just as a general principle. So I don't see this going well, you know? They're already a little bit delulu. Socialism, Chinese characteristics. Yes, with Chinese characteristics.
In March 1979, Deng Xiaoping introduces 4 basic principles.
Yep. Another
1,
4.
Uphold the socialist road.
Yep.
2,
Cool.
Uphold the dictatorship of the proletariat.
Yep. See, we've got the socialist road, which I don't know what that even really means. The dictatorship of the proletariat, that's very yucky. I don't like the dictatorship of the proletariat. Smart people who have wisdom and good faith should be making decisions, not these people.
3, uphold the leadership of the Communist Party.
Nope, that's a bad one.
4, uphold Marxism, Leninism, Mao Zedong thought.
So basically what you're saying is do all the bad things. I mean, that's a little bit too reductive for me to just say, yeah, just do all the bad stuff. But I don't see any way this goes well. Because I mean it's just, hey, what didn't work? Communism. What are we going to do? More communism. Perfect prescription, perfect outcome. Let's go.
Any misapprehension that Deng's reforms will include an end to one-party rule are firmly laid to rest.
So there's a little bit of a foreshadowing here. It is always funny to me when people point out how smart Chinese people are, how good they are at the math. I'm wondering about the economics, though. That kind of requires some math. I feel like they did the math wrong, and we'll see later how this comes into play, but, you know.
Nevertheless, his planned economic reforms are ambitious and far-reaching. Deng signals his desire to strengthen international relations and expand trade during a landmark visit to the United States.
Hey, socialism is great and all, but we need some capitalism to kind of fuel our country just a little bit. We need mercantilism. The government runs capitalism instead of the people. So it's not actually capitalism, because capitalism means private ownership of the means of production. And it's kind of like pseudo-capitalism, because what you're going to see here with the CCP is that your rights will come from, well, hold on. Let me not get ahead of myself. Ah, yes, the best American culture, bucking bronco.
It's the first by a Chinese leader since 1943. In Texas, his evident enjoyment of American traditions helps win over the crowds.
Ah, yes, those beautiful American traditions, like bouncing around on a horse. I've recently been really much in love with the Japanese and American, like the camaraderie on Twitter over things like barbecue and guns and big thick women. Those have been fun, but I don't like the bull riding or whatever kind of crap. That one can go, the rest can stay.
And underscores his
Just get rid of that and the grits and then we'll be all good.
pragmatic approach to China's foreign relations. Deng's goal is to lift millions of ordinary Chinese out of poverty and into the middle class.
Then he would actually just, you know what, if you're going to do that, see what you would do is you'd take Chinese culture, bring it back from Taiwan where you sent it, and then what you would do, you just declare the entire last 40 years a complete waste of everyone's time and a waste of everyone's lives, and then just go back to the way the things used to be a little bit with the culture, and then you bring in some capitalism. You have people like take charge of their own lives, have their own means of doing things for themselves, have incentive structures.
The means will be a new economic system. Socialism with Chinese characteristics.
Right.
For the first time, elements of market capitalism will be introduced into what has been a rigidly state-controlled communist model.
Right, because your rights don't actually come from God in China. They come from the government. So if the government says, like, you can operate the store under the government's watch with all of our restrictions and all of our obscene taxes and everything, but you can still do this. You get to actually run your store because the government will at least kind of admit that they cannot literally do anything correctly. So we'll let you run your store and just completely leech off of you to build this big China.
Decisions will be decentralized, industries opened to private enterprise, and price controls loosened.
I mean, literally, we're just going to say that, hey, you know how we did a centrally planned economy and it completely failed? Well, we're gonna buy it back a little, right? This is the buy it back program. China's gonna buy it back a bit. What they're gonna do is they're gonna say, hey, why don't we like just have people run their businesses under the supervision of the CCP and not do everything the CCP says, because we can't centrally run an economy. But we could just own basically everything via you do it because the CCP lets you, right? That's how it's going to work.
However, the changes will be introduced cautiously, and all aspects of the economy will remain under close government supervision.
Oh, yes.
Special economic zones will be the blazing beacons of China's new economic era.
But of course.
Inspired by the post-war booms in Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea, and Japan, the first SEZs are all on the coast to facilitate foreign investment.
SEZ. Oh, SEZ, Special Economic Zones. So we got a few around here. We got some Zhuhai, Shenzhen, Shantou, and Xiamen. I think I probably completely butchered all of those, but
they include Shenzhen, just 15 miles from Hong Kong, and Xiamen, opposite Taiwan.
Yeah.
Many more will follow in the 1980s.
We got special economic zones in the green, open coastal cities in the yellow, and coastal economic open zones with these weird. It's just weird. All right, I don't understand. I don't understand their little circle graph things, but it does seem like, yes, we're going to let the rest of the world trade with us so that they can interact with our economy. And then we'll keep all the money for ourselves via the CCP, not let the people actually succeed with that, because, you know, that would create like a sense of entitlement to your own property or something like that, you know?
The The SEZs offer foreign investors access to China's plentiful cheap labor and raw materials.
Yep, lot of cheap labor. Can't imagine that that would create any problems in the future, of course.
With less regulation and lower taxes.
What's funny though is that the regulation, the less regulation is funny to me, because I know this is what they'll say, is that this is less regulated, so it's worse for the workers. The regulations are only the ones that have to do with whether or not you can make money. It's not whether or not you can actually own things, whether or not you can keep stuff. It's just what keeps the Chinese people from being able to be marketable. That is the regulation that will be cut.
They are touted as gateways to China, ports through which a booming trade in imports and exports can be established. The SEZs are a massive success, attracting huge amounts of foreign investment.
I mean, it's almost like you've reinvented the wheel a little bit.
Factories and jobs. In the countryside, Mao's mass collectivization programs are rolled back. Rural households are allocated their own land, with more freedom in how they choose to farm it.
Yay.
Over the next 6 years, 97% of peasant households move from collective to individual land ownership. Agricultural output increases by more than 60%. Hunger and famine, which have haunted Chinese peasants for millennia, become a thing of the past.
I mean, it is worth noting that I'm being very critical of China, because I can compare this China to prior China, and then also compare it to the West, where we always pretty much do better than they're even trying to do. But it's a huge improvement. The idea of going from this mercantilist socialist state where the government just kind of leases out the means of being able to do your own thing to people. You know, you have the CCP designated business ownership, considerably better than centrally planned farming. It's such a massive upgrade. But literally anywhere is up at that point. Once you're where China was in the 50s and 60s, anywhere is up.
Thousands of students and officials who had been exiled to rural areas during the Cultural Revolution are allowed to return to the cities and resume their functions. Entrance exams to universities, suspended during the Cultural Revolution, are reintroduced in 1977. And academic life resumes in universities across the country.
Would it maybe just resume for the culture but not for the individuals? Like, I mean, if you have to take 7 years off from college, you're probably just not going back to college.
Abroad, China continues to assert its influence as a major regional power.
Indeed.
To the south, in Indochina, it has supported 2 communist insurgencies in Vietnam and Cambodia.
Not
After
Vietnam.
long struggles, both have secured control in their respective countries. But by the late 1970s, China's relations with communist Vietnam are deteriorating fast. After the Soviet China split, Vietnam sides with its other backer, the Soviet Union.
I mean, it is funny to me, though, because at this point, once China has done all of these things to kind of, you know, as they said, socialism with Chinese characteristics. That's a good way of putting it in the way that they're trying to as a marketing tactic, because really it's socialism, but we kind of admit that we need market forces in order to exist. But you know, you got Vietnam and Cambodia that are just a million times worse than they are right now, which is funny to say again. Like, at some point, you can only go up. There is no further down you can go. Those societies were both in the as far down as you can go point, I think, at that point in time.
In 1978, Vietnam invades Khmer Rouge-controlled Cambodia, led by Pol Pot, threatening to overthrow China's other regional ally. Outraged, China launches a limited invasion of Vietnam the following year. But it is a costly affair. Experienced Vietnamese forces inflict an estimated 20,000 casualties on the People's Liberation Army.
Hold on, the PLO lost 20,000 troops? I mean, that's only supposed to impress me if that was a very minor conflict, right? Because I mean, this is the 100 years that we're. This is only, roughly speaking, like aside from the first episode, we're really only covering about 100 years worth of history. Like it's gonna go to about where the 90s are. I think after Tiananmen Square, they probably don't have much after that. Probably wrap this up in a nice little bow. But it's 100 years of history, and it's a very, very small time frame in the course of Chinese human events. And in that very small time frame, that little casualty number isn't even a rounding error on the actual wartime casualties, which aren't even anything compared to the economic poorly managed casualties.
Chinese military deficiencies are exposed, leading to a thorough overhaul and modernization of its armed forces.
I mean, that's still not that bad.
Attacking Vietnam...
I say as an American, if we lose 100 people overseas, usually that's considered like a great tragedy, which it is, but I'm thinking about like wartime issues. That's not a very big war loss in the scheme. It is normally 20,000 people's a lot of people, right? But again, you can only there exists one path. You can only go up.
A Soviet ally does no harm to China's relations with the West, however, which continue to improve. Deng Xiaoping hosts state visits by the Prime Ministers of Great Britain and Japan, the President of France, and Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes. Very good.
Deng is Time Magazine's Man of the Year.
See, Time Man of the Year, that is because of some past Time Man of the Year. I believe if you get named Time's Man of the Year, that should be grounds for defamation suits. Because I can't, like, Time doesn't pick very good Men of the Year very much, you know what I'm saying?
Twice.
See, exactly. Deng Xiaoping. I mean, inherently, it's right. Anywhere to go is only up. There's only up from there. So he took them on the up, but it's still not as good. Like, you could have had a complete societal overhaul that would have actually made China a very like good and successful country in the wake of all the stuff. Were it not for the fact that the country was ridden by communism. I think that if Chiang Kai-shek had actually won the war, like the Civil War, then China would be a bigger economic powerhouse than the States, I'd say. I would think that they'd be like Japan on steroids as far as their capabilities go. So I think it's funny. Time Man of the Year twice. This guy this guy makes Time Man of the Year twice. A certain someone back in the 30s made Time Man of the Year. I just think that this is grounds for defamation. I would sue Time for giving me the distinction that was also given to Adolf Hitler.
Deng even softens official language toward the old enemy, nationalist-controlled Taiwan. Communist China's stated strategy towards Taiwan becomes one of peaceful reunification.
Never let them buy it back, ever. You never let the far left try to buy it back. They're trying to buy it back, right, guys? We're making progress. We introduced these things, and aren't we great? We should just like reunify. No, never again, never.
Rather than liberation.
Never let them buy it back.
But Deng's offer to incorporate Taiwan into the People's Republic of China under a one country, two systems formula is rejected. by Taiwan's president, Jiang Jingkuo.
Good on him. He kind of like, if... Oh boy, this guy's a looker. If current Chinese, like China, mainland China, People's Republic of China, or what was it? Not the people, something like that. If we have him, Xi Jinping, he's the current leader of China. If he looks like Winnie the Pooh, who does this guy look like? Chiang Ching-kuo? Who is our cartoon character for Chiang Ching-kuo in the comments? I want to know. If Chiang Kai-shek's son looks like a cartoon character to you, we need to figure out who that is. It could even be an anime. It could be something. It could be like a largemouth bass of some kind. I don't know. This guy's an interesting looking figure. Let me know what he is to Xi Jinping's Winnie the Pooh in the comments.
Son of Chiang Kai-shek.
He does not look like his dad very much.
China's new confidence abroad is seen in it.
To be fair, if it was a picture of me with my dad, it would be a very similar thing in that I would not look quite enough other than a few features like the other person. Someone who is relatively fit and everything versus chonker.
Its promotion of pinyin, the new phonetic system for spelling Mandarin Chinese using the Latin alphabet. The international media finally learns to call Peking Beijing.
Yeah.
At home, however...
But I mean, like, it's funny because if... going back a sec, if this was a more libtard channel, you'd have people being like, those like dumb Americans, they couldn't even pronounce words. They didn't know how to say things, and they had to. Those Chinese people had to teach us. I mean, you look at something like Nanking, like Nanjing, not a big deal. Like you'd think, that kind of fits. Peking being Beijing, I can see it. Peking, like Beijing. That makes it. That's close, right? How are you supposed to go from Canton to Guangzhou? They don't even sound like the same word at all. That one is a weird one where it's like you have things that made it difficult. Clearly, if people are coming back with the idea that these words, which are almost the same as the other words, especially Nanking and Nanjing, it is literally one letter. You're one letter off, one little sound. Peking and Beijing, it's like there's like really kind of like two letters off. Canton and Guangzhou, what syllable is the same? I don't even know. That's kind of a wild.
The international media finally learns to call Peking Beijing.
Yeah.
At home, however, the Communist Party's control over society remains as firm as ever.
Do they call it Peking duck or Beijing duck?
Since 1949, China's population has been growing at an unprecedented rate.
Hell yeah, it has.
This was the result of giant strides in public health, while Mao and the government had encouraged and rewarded large families.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, obviously, if you want a society to become sustainable, you might need people to make more people. And that's only how it works. If you don't have people making more people, society will naturally collapse. The economy will go completely tits up. But not like the good kind of tits.
In just 30 years, China's population has nearly doubled.
Yep.
From 550 million to around 1 billion.
Correct.
It's a rate that many experts believe is unsustainable and harmful to prosperity.
So these experts, I have to wonder, all the Chinese, all the Asian math, all of the stereotypes, they go down the drain here. I don't know who the fuck is gonna, like, this is, I mean, if you haven't heard of this, you have to have heard of this by now, right? You know what's coming. Everyone should know what's coming right now. It is one of the big memes, one of the biggest China memes ever.
And And so, in 1980, China introduces a one-child policy.
Oh boy, it's good to have only one child. Do you... Quick question, anyone. Do you have social programs or an economy that is dependent on other people? Like, financially. Do you have a social program where people have to pay in money so that other people take out money? Like, Social Security. Do you have a system in which people have to send money to the government just to get it handed back to them? Social Security is a scam, but getting into that at a different time. How is it supposed to work if there's no more fucking people? There's two people make one child. Your population will have every generation at best. At worst, which is what happens, I would argue, maybe. You're not only does your population crater, but what does that do to all these people who are now only children, have only children problems? And are all, because, because everyone wants a boy in their society, they get rid of all the girls, and they don't want to talk about that too much. They get rid of all the girls, and well, it's not good for society if you have a ton of men trying to be as obscenely looks obsessed as possible to try and chase after a very small handful of very uppity women who have more options coming out their ass than they could handle.
For most families, a second child will now lead to heavy fines and other penalties.
Yep.
In some cases, there are even forced abortions and sterilization.
That's bad.
The consequence will be a generation of single-child families with a strong gender imbalance in favor of males.
Of course. And this is the problem. What do you do? If you need to reverse this, you're going to reverse course. You're not going to be able to populate China again with a bunch of men. You need women to repopulate. You could if the roles were reversed, at least you could undo it, because you'd have a ton of women and a few men. I feel like that's a plot line for some sort of random hentai manga. But in China, you have the opposite. You have all these men competing for a very, very small number of women. And of course, as we see in America, when women feel very entitled to their list of options, they believe that they're a little bit better on a market scale than they actually are. And so you have women who are kind of narcissistic, forcing the men to fight amongst themselves for like a drop of woman. All that for a drop of blood, right? You're gonna have all that for kind of just what normally would be able to happen in a regular society. That's not good.
Strict family planning laws are just one way that the Communist Party has transformed the roles and experience of women living in China. Mao declared that women hold half the sky, and in the 1950s he'd introduced laws to improve women's rights in marriage, divorce and property.
You still don't have the same rights you would as a woman in like 1850s America, but sure, have at it.
By the late 70s, it is estimated that up to 90% of women based in urban areas are in work.
Oh boy.
In 1980, China is among the first to ratify the UN Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women.
You know what? It's funny to me because in all of this, what are we doing? Since no one has two kids, everyone, well, there are some people who have multiple children because they'll either pay the fines or dodge them somehow because they're powerful. But if all the women are only having one child, what do? You put them to work. We're going to make the cheap labor even cheaper because we're going to double the workforce. And what are we going to do? We're going to tell all these women, all those great years you could have had raising kids. How about you do a 72-hour work week instead? Why don't we just I think it's 6/12 is what they normally do in China. Their work structure is, to my knowledge, modern Chinese work structure, 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, for their crummy standard of living. But you do all that work just to get a little bit of money, just a little bit of money. And you could be working like a machine and hating your life and being miserable, or you could raise some kids. I don't know.
But ambitions and declarations do not always match reality.
Oh, and that's certainly the case. Like there's all these countries that they say a lot of things. Healthcare is a human right. Well, if healthcare is a human right, then why is it that in America, when the court provides you a lawyer, you don't want the lawyer? Right? A positive right in which you are provided something by the government, as opposed to a negative right where the government is prevented from doing something, which are all the good rights are negative rights. Positive right, right to a speedy trial. Right? You'll get an attorney provided to you by the state. Those are jokes. Those are jokes, ladies and gentlemen. All the rights. When the government gives you a right, when your rights come from the government, those rights probably aren't worth half of what rights that come from God would be worth. So I don't want them.
Women remain underrepresented in China's political and economic leadership.
That doesn't even matter. Don't care.
And as with much development in China, many reforms take much longer to reach.
I gotta ask another question for comments. Does anybody care? Does anybody care who the hell represents them as long as they're doing the things you want them to do? Like, do I care? Would I give a flying fuck if there's a dude who likes anime making decisions in Congress? I don't care. I don't care. You got weebs doing stuff. Are they the libertarian? Are they gonna end the Fed? Are they gonna cut taxes? Are they gonna cut spending? Then I don't really care. If they're not gonna do those things, I don't want them. I don't care. Why does it matter whether or not people are represented in leadership? That makes no difference to me whatsoever.
Each rural communities. Progress is being made, but for many, not quickly enough.
Yikes. Students, we came too late. Whatever you say and criticize about us is deserved. From Zhao Jiang. Jiang? 1989. Tiananmen Square. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we got Tiananmen Square all teed up. That'll be next time. We're almost at the end. Next episode's the last one. This is the last thing that I can think of that happens in like as a major substantial like big event in China. This would be the last one I could think of. Moral of the story, have babies, want to live a life where you raise kids and don't just spend all day working for no money. And then have yourselves a really good rest of your evening. Sorry about all the ranting and raving, but these Chinese people are lunatics. At some point, a society needs to collapse in order to fix itself. China's collapsed like 5 separate times in the 1900s. They have yet to have fixed themselves. So maybe communism is just, it is literally destroying, it destroys the land from which it is pursued. So we're going to get into all that later. We're going to have Tiananmen Square later. Next week, the last week, this one will be, it'll be the end. It'll be the end of the series. I've enjoyed doing this. I've enjoyed watching these. I've enjoyed all the very few but still very important comments that I've been getting. China sucks. Fake China sucks anyway. The mainland China People's Republic, that China sucks. Tell me in the comments who Chiang Kai-shek's son looks like in a cartoon. He not Pooh Bear, because Pooh Bear is already taken. But whoever he is, that's not Pooh Bear. Not Pooh Bear is who I'd rather have as the one making decisions. I think Deng Xiaoping, better but not enough, and that's where I'll leave it. Definitely be sure to have yourselves the rest of a good evening. Bye bye.